Right, hello. Let's do a video on the underestimated or underrated cordyline. So this is specifically to the Cordyline australis, which is your standard cordyline you'll see out and about. It's a pretty common plant. Panning around, all my neighbours seem to have them in their gardens. So they are a common plant. They do grow well where we are. The growth rate is decent. These have been in the ground 10 or 11 years from a 2-foot plant. I couldn't really tell you the height of them, maybe 16 foot. They do like water during the summer especially, but a bit like the palm trees, they do have long tap roots, so once they're in the ground, very little chance of moving without killing them. They don't like the disturbance, especially when they get to a good size. You've got no chance really. So these ones really did take off for me. These are one of the first sort of tropical style plants that went in the ground here. I think I've mentioned in previous videos I've lived here about 15 years, and originally that was just like a all lawn and a small border each side with cottagey type plants. There are a couple plants remaining, like the fuchsias and Uranus growing up the fence there. But in general, yeah, the garden has evolved as my tastes have changed. So yeah, I got into the tropical style gardening, and this is probably one of the first plants you'll want to look into when you do get into it. They're cheap and easy to get hold of. You'll be looking to pay about £4 for a small plant. Like I say, they're decent growth rate. You could expect 1 foot to 2 foot a year. You know, they slow down as you get a bit bigger. So they start off with usually just one head, and then whether they see fit. So we've got two side by side here. So we've got one split into two, and then chasing it further up, split into several more. Whereas the second split a lot higher, but that's split into 3. And obviously since they're split into several after that, I don't know if you can see it, but there is one head that has died off. But that's not a problem, because you'll get plenty more divide off from that. And as you can see, there's plenty of seeds growing from the flower space early on in the year. When they do flower, they give you a lovely, really nice smelling flowers. They remind me a bit of jasmine. You know, you can sit down at the bottom of the garden near the house, and that'll waft down, and you can smell it from a fair distance. So yeah, I mean, it's maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but they are easy, cheap, reliable plant in our climate. So the pros and cons. Well, the pros, obviously they grow quick, they look quite exotic, easy to look after, pretty hardy. The cons, when they get to this size, you can see the flower, old spent flower spathes are sort of shriveled up and died. Some of them might be 2 years old. They're a bit hard to reach They do fall off eventually, but yeah, I'm sure I've got 2 or 3 summers worth of dead flower spikes on there. Obviously several from this year as well. So obviously with all them seeds, you do tend to get the odd one that self-seeds. So this could be a pro or a con for you. I've got several in pots here which I've grown from seed, but we've got a volunteer down the side there. So the volunteer is one that's sort of dropped off naturally and grown. We've actually got another one here right near the base, so that's self-seeded. A little interesting point is that I think you can see in this pot here we've got 4 little babies, and some do come out sort of just a dead looking brown to start with, but obviously will green up eventually, so some will come up straight green, and like this little volunteer, this is still brown, so you get some variation until they get a bit bigger. So yeah, that could be a pro or a con, depending if you like lots of little baby plants. And the other, probably the biggest con, would be when you get a bit of a wind, you get a lot of the leaves fall off. So you know, you could be out here every other day picking up leaves. Not a problem when they're small, if you can just pull them off as they sort of brown off, but when they get to this size and you can't reach them, they'll just drop a few each day. So it's just a matter of as you walk around, pick them up. So there's a little look. I have done a video in the past about the different varieties I'm growing, but this is the main one you'll find, the cheapest and easiest one, the most reliably hardy one in the UK. So very rarely do you maybe up in Scotland you might lose one in the winter, but in general they do tend to cope quite well with the cold, and even if they do lose a head, they'll quite often sprout from the side, or even if they die right back to the ground, they will sprout again the following summer. So they're pretty hard to kill once they're in the ground and established. Another interesting point is if you don't want a huge 18-foot monster, then you can get it to the desired size. So maybe if you want just a 6 or 8 foot plant, if you cut it off about 4 foot, so you just literally just cut the head straight off at 4 foot, and then that'll then naturally divide and you'll get a couple of heads on it, so that won't get much bigger after that. You might get another 4 or 5 foot with multiple heads on it, so that'll keep it a bit more small, dwarf, bit of bonsai if you like. So in general I think that's about it, other than I don't know why, but let's say a lot of my neighbours are growing these, and for some reason mine seem considerably bigger, and especially this clump next door that was in where it is when I moved in, so they've sort of got to its maximum height. So I don't know whether, I know the first few years when I had them in the ground, I did when I clean out the pond filters, I used to dump the nutrient rich wastewater on them, so that obviously helped them. So you do like some good natural fertilizer, that'll certainly speed up the process. So that's all I can put it down to. But yeah, they are quite good looking, and yeah, give you that exotic feel. Most people don't know better, call them palm trees. They are sort of nicknamed cabbage palms. But yeah, maybe one more con, if you like, is the fact that they do cast a bit of shade when they get to that height. So mid-afternoon, it does tend to shade this side of the garden a bit. But you know, in general, that's sort of that's not a huge area. That's not a huge concern really. Right, so I mean, in conclusion, if you want to grow these from seed, if you see a tree near you, if you can reach it, just cut off a part or full flower space. Like I say, not last year but the year before, I grew a load. So this is their second summer. Obviously they're not growing as fast as they could due to being in pots, but they are really easy to grow from seed. So if you can just, there's absolutely millions of seeds on each flower bract, so you can get hold of some of them and they germinate pretty easy. They're tiny little white. When they're ready, you know, fully ripened, they'll be white. You can see, I don't know if it's picked up on camera, it's probably silhouetted out, but they're starting to turn white, which means they're just about ready. So if you could get your hands on that, really easy. What I've done is I just put in a potting tray, you know, just literally an inch of compost, scatter the seeds over the top and keep them moist and give them a temperature of about 20 degrees plus, and they'll start shooting in no time. You'll end up with hundreds of them. Right, so I think we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.